Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I want to talk about some of the biggest issues and potential fixes for the Battlefield 5 beta leading up to launch. We're supposedly getting one more beta before the final game launches. Hopefully DICE can make a lot of progression between now and the next beta, and we can continue to work on improving this game as it leads up to the launch. There's so much promise with Battlefield 5. I'm addicted to the gameplay. I really like playing the game right now, but the problems, the bugs, the design concepts chosen for certain areas of the game are really not in a good state, and there's a lot of work to do. So hopefully we as a community can come together, help DICE problem solve some of the bigger glaring issues of the game and get it fixed before launch. I respect DICE for really trying to innovate their franchise, but sometimes they come up with new concepts or innovations that they are just in love with the idea of, but just don't play out in game the way that I think they believe it should. So let's try and get into some of the current issues now. Some of them will be more basic, some of them will be much more complicated, but I think we can potentially solve a lot of the current issues with Battlefield 5. Let's start off by talking about the attrition system, which is naturally going to bleed into some of the revive mechanics and stuff like that. But basically, DICE has completely redesigned the ammo system for Battlefield 5, how much ammo you start off with, including health as well. Now you can carry a med pack in a battle, which can heal you back up to full. There's some cool concepts behind this, trying to make the support and medic class more useful at basically all times during the game, whether you're just spawning in or you've been in combat for a while. You should have stuff to do. It's a cool concept. The side effects are pretty bad right now. One of the most annoying side effects, in my opinion, is spawning in at any point and immediately, instead of running into action or linking up with my squad mates, I'm going to look around for the closest ammo supply station or medical supply crate, go to those, and then run into combat. This is a big delay because usually when you spawn in, you're not always spawning in directly with your squad, or if you spawn on a flag or something like that, you'll need to do a little bit of work to get topped off with ammo since you're only starting with 2 magazines. DICE has already stated that they're talking about increasing the ammo supply back again to what it was in the Alpha 2. This could go a long way to improving the system. I have a few suggestions for letting players play the way that they want, but still keeping the attrition system in the game. One of them is to allow an extra supplies gadget at, say, class rank 10. I can swap out my grenade launcher or some other gadget and start off with 2 extra magazines and a health pack from spawn, and it'll allow me to carry all that much more ammo when I go resupply, so I can take more ammo with me into combat. I'll have to sacrifice something potentially useful like a grenade launcher to do so, but this would allow players to play the game a little bit more the way they want. If having extra ammo and health is really that important to you, you have the option then at a higher class rank, not at the start, to swap out one of your gadgets for that extra ammo. This would be something cool because then I could create a class that's based on playing with casual players who might not give me ammo or health as regularly, or playing with a well-organized squad of friends. I could give up this gadget and use more relevant things, knowing that my squad is going to probably top me off with ammo and health more frequently. I just like the idea of giving players the option on how they want to play it, rather than forcing everybody into a very restrictive attrition system, which for the most part punishes players for not having good squad mates, right? It's not about your individual skill anymore, it's about teamwork, which I get is the concept behind it. But just putting in an attrition system is not going to make your teammates good. It's not going to make them give you ammo and health all the time. It's just not going to happen a lot of the time. So why should I get punished for other players' inability to play their class or pick a well-balanced squad composition? Now, lots of little new changes have been made around the attrition system. For example, everybody having their own medical pack now is a cool concept. My issue with it is that holding the 5 key on PC is a just really awkward and terrible way of implementing it. Holding buttons on PC, it's more common with console to have to hold a button, but on PC it feels very unnatural, not to mention holding 5 to do it is crazy. I think DICE should get rid of the hold mechanic for having to self-heal using the 5 key. In addition to which, it's kind of broken right now where you can't rebind the 5 key, but they should consider this as I'm thinking about increasing the amount of thumb buttons I have on my mouse just so I can deal with that self-heal mechanic, because you don't want to lose mobility while self-healing. I'd like to do it as my thumb button, but I'm using all my thumb buttons right now. They're creating a control interface that's getting a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. If DICE can come up with a new system for self-healing that doesn't involve a button hold and can be used with basic keys that are close by and easy to access without having to bind crap to my mouse, that'd be great. Now, part of the new ammo attrition system and general animation system for Battlefield 5 is they want this insanely tactile feel where everything you do in the world is represented with an animation and nothing magically happens through auras. Okay, fine. However, hitting E on every supply crate or ammo station gets a bit tedious. I find that I'm just hitting a lot of buttons that I normally wouldn't be. I feel like I'm playing an RPG where I'm constantly having to push buttons and activate things. I think DICE could easily just set up the system where if you walked up to a supply crate or a supply station and were facing it, it would just automatically grab a health or ammo kit out of it rather than having to hit E. In addition to which, playing the animation which restricts your ability to aim down sights and potentially lose you a firefight, I don't know if we need the animation for holding up ammo in front of our face every time. I think a good sound effect of getting ammo or health could be fine. Seeing the little number counter at the bottom of your screen blink green or pop up a little bit to show you that you've picked up some ammo would be more than adequate. I think we can still implement a system without auras, but one that just isn't as annoying. Right now I feel like I'm spending so much time looking at boxes and looking at areas of the map and hitting E on them and hitting E on this, and then I have to be aware of cooldown timers and all this extra stuff. I think DICE is getting a little too complicated with the system. They're focusing on things that aren't fun. Combat's fun. Resupplying my soldier is not fun. Let's make resupplying as simple and basic as possible. But if you want to put a sort of logistic system behind it with the attrition thing, that's fine. Let's just make it easy to do and not cumbersome and not have to bind extra crap to my mouse and come up with new key bindings and stuff just to resupply and heal. Now, speaking of healing, the current UI for the auto health regen system is not good. It doesn't explain how it works. In fact, I didn't even realize for the longest time that my soldier was going to heal back up 30 points of health. The assault heals back up 40 points of health. But I don't know when this is going to happen. It takes a really long time sometimes. I think it's restricted by suppression at times. There's just really bad communication in game as to when you're going to heal and if you're going to heal and for how much you're going to heal. DICE needs to like completely rework this or something. The indicators are not intuitive in the slightest, and even 20 plus hours into the beta, I'm still sort of like, oh yeah, am I gonna heal back up now? Is it blinking? Am I gonna get any health back? Wait, why is it not healing? Like, it's not good. I shouldn't have this much time into the beta and still not fully understand how my soldier health regen works. How about the support class and the attrition system? The support class starts off with an oddly low amount of ammo. When I spawn in, I have to then resupply myself manually every time. If I forget to do this, I'm going to run out of ammo in a firefight really quickly. Let's just start the support class with topped off ammo. Prevent me from having to do this one extra bit of busy work just so I don't accidentally run out of ammo way faster than I should. Let's talk about some of the nuances of the revive and spawning system a bit. The revive speed does feel a little bit long. The medic gets the smoke grenades now, so there's some cool new revive meta with smoke grenades and stuff, but I feel like maybe just shaving off an extra 20% of revive speed, both for buddy revives and medic revives, would be nice. The holding E to revive thing has an odd delay before you start reviving. So what happens is you go up to a friendly player to revive them, you hold E, it doesn't start, then you let go of E, but then the animation starts, but then it cancels because you'd already let go of E. It's not in a good state right now. I think they need to work on the timing with this to get it better, or get rid of the hold mechanic for E and just have it be a one-tap mechanic, something like that. But yeah, the reviving just feels very clunky right now. Also, they're talking about adding dragging into the game. In my opinion, the reviving mechanic is already long enough as it is. Now they want to add in soldier dragging. It sounds cool in concept, but I think that this mechanic is just going to be so slow and kill the pacing of the game so much. It might just be more annoying than it is worthwhile. I don't know, if DICE really wants to sink a bunch of time into creating a dragging mechanic, then go for it, but it just feels very out of place in the pacing of Battlefield in general. Now, when you die in the game and you're looking around for a revive, you no longer have the distance markers of nearby medics. DICE wants you to physically look around your environment and see, hey, is there a medic nearby? Can I get revived? Is somebody coming for a revive? I understand the concept of this. DICE wants us to rely less on the UI and more about looking around the environment. I think this particular system is taking it one step too far. Battlefield 1 had a great distance system that showed you how far away all the medics were, and you could tell right away if you should bleed out or if you should wait for a revive. Now it's just an extra bit of busy work. It's not fun in my opinion, and I just feel like DICE is adding in a lot of mechanics that they think is going to add to the immersion and fun factor of the game, but really I think they're just adding in a lot of busy work, and this is one of them. Again, another hotly talked about topic is the dead state and the bleed out state, basically taking a long time to bleed out, having 3 different options, whether you want to hold on and call for a medic, bleed out, or in between. It doesn't really make a lot of sense right now, and I think they should definitely speed up the bleed out mechanic and also get rid of the squad spawn system. Or DICE has already said that they like how it's working because people are playing together more with their squad and sticking with their squad. Maybe put in an option in the UI menu for me to skip the squad screen altogether. If you're an advanced player and you don't need the squad screen, let me skip it so I can switch my class and pick who I want to spawn on with more accuracy. Now, when it comes to awkward UI design, when you're capturing a flag in game, it'll show you the progress up on screen. It'll even show you how many enemy players are in the vicinity, so how many players you should be expecting to fight in the very immediate future. However, when certain other events in the game happen, on-screen text replaces the flag cap icon, and so for a significant period of time, you won't know how many other players you're fighting or what your alert status should be. This is really bad game design. There is a little bit of an issue with it in Battlefield 1 where awards would block this. You could go into the UI and turn it off. In my opinion, there shouldn't have to be an option to go into the UI to turn this crap off. It should just be designed so that nothing ever blocks your flag capture status, since that's incredibly important information. The square minimap in the lower left-hand corner continues on with the compass degree indicators, except the compass degree indicators are very hard to read on a square minimap. So if I call somebody out at like 330, it's really hard for my teammates to figure out what the hell I'm talking about or what specific direction that is. I think a top of the screen or bottom of the screen compass, like other games use right now, is an excellent solution, and especially with lack of spotting in BF5, this is going to become way more useful. So having an option to turn this on, a circular minimap would be an improvement, but I think ultimately top or bottom of the screen compass would be the best solution. All right, let's talk about the weapon progression tree a little bit. The first and most egregious problem that I talked about in a previous video is just getting to your damn weapon upgrade and unlock tree. You can't do it from in-game. This is just unacceptable in my opinion. Guns don't unlock until I back out of a game and pick them in my loadout menu. I can't upgrade them or mess with my progression tree while I'm in game. Really, really bad design. I think this has to be fixed, otherwise people are just going to rage when this game launches. So hopefully DICE can fix that. But when it actually comes to the progression tree, it's very weird and silly. A lot of people have issues with it, especially since the progression tree is just a straight upgrade tree, so that the more I use the gun, the better it will be. And also every time you start off with a gun, it probably isn't going to perform very well and is a poor indicator of ultimately what that weapon is capable of. So it's just a bad indication of how good a gun is when you first unlock something. You're getting the worst possible version of that gun. You won't know if it's any good until you sink quite a bit of time and progression into it. Now, the other problem with the progression tree is that you use both currency and experience to upgrade it. So I have to get like a gun to rank 4 or 5 or something to start unlocking the higher stuff on the tree. But then I also have to spend currency on unlocking that stuff. Currency, which I don't have enough of to unlock everything that I've ranked up. It seems like a weird system, plus the same currency is used for cosmetic items. So now I have to decide, do I want my gun to look cool or do I want it to perform better? I don't think the progression tree necessarily needs a currency system behind it. What if I just get a gun to rank 10? That means I should be able to unlock the last thing on the progression tree. I shouldn't have to think about currency, and I can use my currency on cosmetic stuff alone. It feels very awkward right now. Also, the progression tree is just very, very lacking in stats. It says like one of the upgrades is faster rate of fire for your gun. How much faster rate of fire? I would love to know how much faster, because then it would let me debate, do I want 10% faster rate of fire or 25% better vertical recoil? If that's what I'm choosing between, now I have some stats to actually give me a better idea of how much of an improvement that is. The information in the progression tree is so painfully limited right now. It just doesn't give you enough to make a good, well-informed decision, and everybody's going to be reliant on like Reddit or online forums or watching YouTube videos to figure out what the best progression tree is. Then, of course, if you decide you went down a progression tree that you're not enjoying so much, instead of being able to back out or change your progression tree through a quick system, you now have to buy a second gun, which is also very complicated to do. I didn't actually know how to do it. There's like 7 steps to get to some weird armory menu, and it's not located in the menu it should be located in. So buying the second gun is complicated. There's no way to label the second gun right now, so you don't really know which progression tree you're getting, except for if you look at the little icons at the bottom of it. It's a super awkward system right now, and at the end of the day, it's really no different than, say, Battlefield 1 system where you have one gun with 3 different variations. That's ultimately what you're going to get from Battlefield 5 as well, except it's just infinitely more complicated, and they put a progression system behind ranking up the guns. I don't mind progression trees, but it just has to be done well. The system has to be orchestrated better. Right now, it is just an absolute nightmare of a system. I mean, when you can roll back to Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, which in my opinion didn't have the best progression systems overall, nor did they have great user interfaces for explaining items and gadgets and upgrades, it was still simpler and a lot easier to understand and more fun to play around with than Battlefield 5's system. So if you can roll back like 3 games to get a better progression tree system or a better progression system than Battlefield 5, that's not a good indicator. I would build this whole system over from the ground up, but since we're as far along as we are, the best we can do is just try and make the user interface better, easier to access, less complicated, and just something that doesn't make me rage when I realize I've gone down the wrong progression tree or want to try a different progression tree. Let's talk about the building mechanic, another brand new concept for Battlefield 5. This is actually something that's grown a lot since the alpha. The things you can build are now a bit more complicated. There's bridges and cool support structures that you can do to give you access to different areas of the map. I like how it's coming along. My biggest issue with the building mechanic right now is that it's just a little bit too slow to be effective mid-combat. So if you're building up all these fortifications before you see the enemies, you could essentially be building an entire fortress for the enemies to use against you. If you're not actually using it on the spot, then the build mechanic feels gimmicky, right? Like if I get 500 points for building up a whole base around a flag, and then the enemy comes and kills me and then uses this base I just built to now defend the point, I've done the enemy team a favor and the game has awarded me points for doing so. It seems ridiculous. I don't like that aspect of the building mechanic, but what I do think is a cool aspect is that occasionally you can build stuff mid-combat that gives you a firefight advantage. The only problem is that building is a little bit too slow right now to make that as effective. I think speeding up building by maybe 25%, something along those lines, would allow me to complete a few more structures mid-firefight a little bit faster, and then maybe use building when I see a firefight about to break out, or there's a firefight happening and I think if there's just a wall here, I could then mount my support gun and I could maybe kill this guy. That would be cool. I think that'd be a more fun way. Of course, we wouldn't be getting into the Fortnite realm of like building a whole fortress around me once a firefight breaks out, but just speeding it up a little, I think would actually make building an effective combat strategy versus something that you have to guess as a preemptive strategy for a firefight, which almost never works out, and the enemy almost always ends up using it against you instead. So that would be my biggest critique on building right now. Weapon balance. Clearly it's a beta. Clearly weapon balance is a long way off. I think it's a bit too far off right now. The STG-44, I think, without a shadow of a doubt, is the best gun in the game. It's super accurate. You can drop people from insanely far away. It's got great TTK. Everybody's saying, nerf the STG-44. Hold on a second, guys. Pump the brakes. I love playing with the STG-44. It feels great. It performs great. If you have really good recoil control and the ability to aim for heads, you can drop people insanely fast. It's a high skill gun. It's something that is really good from the base, but gets even better the better you are at controlling recoil. What if instead of nerfing the STG-44, we make other guns a lot better? rather than bringing everything down to a much lower TTK, similar to like Battlefield 1, we bring things a bit further up to the STG-44, which is actually slower TTK than BF4 in general. So I think we should try and improve the effectiveness of other guns. The weapon balance is totally out of whack right now. There's only a few guns for each class that I would consider to be particularly good. But rather than nerfing everything down to a base level, let's bring things up. Let's keep that TTK and the high skill curve for each gun up there like the STG-44. Something that might be an issue of early game meta not really establishing itself is the complexity of capture points. There's certain capture points, especially on like Arctic Fjord with the big bridge area where there's like 3 or 4 different levels that you have to clear in order to find somebody who might be hiding or capping a flag. The capture radiuses are really big, something that I like, but the problem is that his scout classes don't start off with flares right now. So finding people on points is really difficult in the beta because you have to rank up the scout class to pretty high rank before you get flares unlocked. This might change after the game launches, but DICE might want to consider giving the scout class or the recon class flares from the start. They're not an OP gadget, and it would be a better way to sort of establish the meta in the beta to figure out if the cap radiuses or the cap points are too complicated, or is it just an issue of nobody having flares or intel gadgets right now to figure out where people are hiding. Let's talk about tank balance and tank gameplay a bit since I've had more time to play around with it for the second beta. The aiming has completely changed for tanks. It's similar to World of Tanks from the third-person perspective where you can turn around and aim quickly, but your turret traversal speed is locked in, so it takes a little while to get at places. I think the control scheme is going to affect consoles far less than it does on PC. The controlling is awkward, to say the least, on PC. I think they could improve it by giving the machine gun turret a little bit more swivel or something like that, and have the tank turret locked in a bit more. I like the concept of what DICE is going for here. They're making the tanks far less accurate and reactionary, and giving them a lot more health. So you can run donuts around a tank now as infantry, and it won't be able to catch you, but you're also not going to kill it with 2 well-placed Panzerfaust in the rear or something. You know, it's going to be harder to kill it. Maybe mines are going to be far more effective against tanks now because they're going to be really hard to counter infantry. I like the concept behind it. The controls aren't particularly enjoyable right now. I think they need a lot more finesse, and the machine guns are not lined up on the crosshairs for a lot of them. Plus, the muzzle velocity of some of these machine guns feels like I'm shooting 9mm or even slower. It feels like I'm shooting slingshots at people. You have to like aim so far in front of running soldiers. It is ridiculous. So DICE needs to mess with the muzzle velocity. I don't know what the point of making insanely slow muzzle velocity on something that's already really hard to aim is, but they could definitely update the aiming scheme, the muzzle velocity, and dial it in. Conceptually, I kind of like what DICE is doing here. It allows them to make really strong tanks without making them too overpowered. The progression tree for tanks, I think, is a bit wonky right now, where you can get the secondary swivel gunner as part of the progression tree, which is a really important part of teamwork. I don't understand why DICE is locking behind some really good teamwork elements behind a progression tree. They should probably just be in the tanks from the start. Also, the swivel gunner on tanks should probably have the ability to duck down for cover, because they're very easy targets right now. They should be easy targets for the most part, but a swivel gunner should have the option to get some sort of temporary cover quickly, as they would be able to in real life. The slow ejection option from vehicles, whether it's a transport vehicle, a tank, or an airplane, is pretty damn slow. I think it could maybe be sped up a little bit. There's a plane ejection bug I found where, like, if I'm going down in a plane and I'm going to hit the ground and I eject before I hit the ground but not fast enough to actually get out of the plane, it does like the craziest animation I've ever seen, and I somehow survived like the world's goofiest plane crash. Definitely needs to be refined and fixed. There's something wrong with it. Spotting targets on the ground from airplanes is still incredibly difficult. I did max out my BF-109 with like a spotting camera, which has no description, and as far as I can tell, I think it allows me to 3D spot enemies that are spotted with flare guns or something like that. I'm still pretty damn confused on how it works, visibility from the air is not great right now. It's only good on like really wide open maps, and even then you really have to look. Anti-aircraft cannons are still pretty good at shooting down airplanes. The hardest thing to deal with them from an airplane or an air vehicle's perspective is that it's so damn hard to see the AA guns. Even when I relatively know where they might be located, I still zoom in, look, and it's almost impossible to spot them out. I think there needs to be better visibility on anti-aircraft cannons. Soldier visibility from the ground perspective as an infantry player is still pretty crazy. If you're playing on like Arctic Fjord and a guy is covered in snow and just laying down on the snow, it's crazy hard to see them. I think DICE should pull back on some of the environmental toppings for soldiers, especially like the covered in snow thing. Maybe it could be something cool where if a soldier's laying down in the snow for a while, like a recon class, maybe they get covered with more snow and become more white. But if they're just running around between buildings, they shouldn't be covered in snow. It's not a realistic visual effect, in my opinion, and it makes them insanely hard to see when they're amongst snow-covered trees or snow-covered environmental stuff. So I think DICE could pull back on some of the environmental coverings for their soldier models. Class balance is coming a long way right now. I think it would be cool if the recon class had some sort of option to deal damage to armored targets, kind of like they had the K-Bullet in Battlefield 1, at least giving them some sort of option if they see a damaged tank to try and contribute to the fight. Also giving medics some sort of anti-vehicle option to pick from would be nice. Maybe DICE is already planning on this and we're just not seeing the gadgets in the beta just yet, but if they're not, I hope they do have something that they can add down the line. Medics with only SMGs in their arsenal. The SMGs feel very similar in performance. Some of them are a little bit better than others, but for the most part, they don't feel like they have as interesting of an arsenal or weapon variety as the other classes. Hell, the Recon class even has a DMR style sniper rifle and bolt action style sniper rifles, different ways to play the game, where medics just basically, here's some SMGs, go have fun, close quarter firefighting with those. I would love if the medic had some DMR style weapons. Other people were suggesting that it would be awesome if the medic had, or if there was just a universal weapon category, like putting all the DMRs in a universal weapon category area so that anybody could pick from them. So if you needed a medium range option with any class, it would always be there to pick from. I don't mind that idea. I kind of liked how there was some universal weapon categories in BF4, but if that's not an option, I hope DICE is considering adding a little bit more variety to the medic class, because if the maps start getting more wide open with longer engagement ranges, the medic's going to become less and less fun to play. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. Anyway, these are my overall critiques and issues with Battlefield 5 right now. There's plenty of bugs in there, but these are the things that I can give suggestions on how to fix. Obviously, with bugs, the suggestion is fix the bug. So these are the things that I think I can contribute to and give constructive feedback on. What do you guys think about the things I've brought up? Do you have better solutions for the things I've suggested? Remember, there's only a little bit of time between now and launch. Suggestions can't be things that are going to be like redesign the entire underlying mechanics of a game. DICE only has so much time, so you have to think from a development perspective. What kind of things can be changed and what kind of fixes can we implement that can actually be completed within a short period of time? So just keep that in mind when suggesting feedback or changes or fixes to the base game. I'm still having a lot of fun with Battlefield 5 right now. The reduction in explosive spam, the improvement in weapon mechanics, and just general map design and class stuff is really fun right now. I'm addicted to the gameplay. I think if DICE can just lock down some of the other problems, namely UI issues, that's probably my biggest issue with the game right now, is just overall UI complexities and delays and pacing and all that stuff. If they can fix a lot of that, this game will be freaking awesome. And I do believe DICE, when they talk about having one of their best Battlefield games on hand, it's just still a ways off from being fully realized. And if they let the bugs and the pacing and some of the UI stuff get the better of them, then this game will never reach its full potential. So hopefully they can get there. Hopefully we can help them get there. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.